Welcome to the Latvian Gambit Example 4. Once again, we're going to try to quickly develop open the F file. Try to pressure D4 where possible, and castle on either side if applicable. So, let's proceed. This game was played against a person under 2100, so I want to warn you right now, it's not the highest quality game. However, it's a good example of what to do in the Latvian. So let me unpause Ascension. We'll proceed. As you can see, the computer wanted knight to c6, considers the Latvian unsound, and we're a pawn down already. Simply taking wins the pawn. This is the preferred move. That's a good move for white. Pretty standard move. Now we need to chase the knight. Knight goes to c4, we recover a pawn. Computer says standard moves bishop to e2. I see this move a lot, knight to c3. Knight to c3, there's a variety of responses to that. However, queen to g6 is one of more standard responses. Computer wants a f3, and then it suggests just giving that pawn up, which I pretty much can't stand doing. So, in this particular case, white moved bishop to e2. Now, at first blush, this just drops the g-pawn. You take the g-pawn, the rook moves, then you take the h-pawn. So, strangely enough, it's an even game, and he gets a lot of development as a result of this, and I don't really care for this variation, because this is my goal to do to other people, basically, is let them develop their queen and then chase it all over the board and have everything developed. I'm very comfortable in that position. So even though I'll have grabbed a couple pawns, there's a huge amount of development on the white side, and black is going to be hard-pressed to keep knights off d5 and things like that, which are headed to c7, and then misplacing other black pieces. So I don't really opt for this. I have a chance at an even game here, but I really don't like this variation. So I play an inferior move, knight to f6. This is an example of unsound chess. Now, once again, I'm a whole pawn down. But remember, the opening made me a pawn down to begin with. So a pawn down's a pawn down. This is not a winning advantage for white. Now it says that white should just go ahead and castle. Obviously, bishop to h3 is not a threat because knight d3 covers it beautifully. Now, white is able to give me the advantage back by simply moving g3. He's worried about the g-pawn, and he doesn't want to castle. So the computer says that's not enough to give me the advantage back, and suggests I just move bishop to e7, but I move bishop to h3 because I want to prevent it from castling now. Also, I have various ways of protecting the pawn and screwing up his castling by simply moving my bishop down there, so I like that idea. Now, there is a little bit of a trick here if white discovers it, and obviously he can't play knight takes pawn because I just recapture with the queen, but he could actually play knight to d5, which deflects my knight. It attacks the c7 square and creates a bunch of problems. Basically, you got to move queen to f7 because you can't take it because of the pin on h5. So he doesn't make this move, however. He protects his d-pawn, which makes me perfectly happy. And now there are a variety of moves available here, and strangely enough, the computer wants me to move queen to f5, which I find hard to understand. This is Stockfish's analysis, Stockfish 8, and this program, it doesn't even occur to. It likes knight to c6, which I'm very tempted to play in a position like this, but I just don't like the pawn push, so I'm going for quiet development again. Now it says he can get a knight to d5 with a big advantage. However, I'm capable of defending and then getting some play on the white squares on the king side, so without analyzing this in too much detail, he is decided he needs to castle queenside. And now, once again, I've come up with something that is particularly threatening. And a6 is something that I play a lot in the Latvian Gambit, and a6 is a menacing move, and white needs to be really aware of what's going on. As you can see, it's already an even game, so computer's recommending a lot of different stuff. He castles, and all of a sudden, once again, equality. Now I push, and I'm forcing the issue here. If he plays a really sharp line, he can move knight to d5 and create a lot of trouble and pretty much forcing me to capture. And then, of course, he does a whole variety of maneuvers. I was afraid he'd go to a5, which I consider to be a little better move. But after this move, which, strangely enough, the majority of players that I play make moves like this, he gets forked and the game's over. So this is just an example of how to attack on the queen side. I'm not even castled yet. It said f3 was the right move, which I would have taken anyway. And now I'm just in the mode of like exchanging back. I'm making apparently what appears to be mostly number one moves. I'm not worried about various things. As you can see, we're maintaining our 2+. Now it suggests bishop to f4 to prevent the following, so he moves d5 and I just take and the game's over. So obviously he takes back and he gets the pin, and this is what happens when you play somebody who's rated like in, I think he was in around 2000 somewhere. So at any rate, that's the end of this example. This is just a simple example of how fast things fall apart with the Latvian and what the ins and outs of certain types of that variation have.